You can imagine it would be a relief, because when you don't know what's happening, you envision all these other things in your head, don't you, about what they're going through and how they might be suffering. And to know that it happened within half a second is basically what they said. They didn't even see it coming. And that may be really the one blessing out of this, if I even term it as such.
Yeah.
But as a mom, to know that my child didn't want to go, that's going to be a really, really hard thing to reconcile.
Yeah, particularly when you juxtapose it with the scenario that we thought might be in play, and that's one where they were floating without navigation,
right,
and knowing that their oxygen was certainly limited and was going to soon run out. That was not the case. I heard one expert yesterday describe it as, it was just as if a flip was switched, and that was it. A switch was flipped, and that was it. So there wouldn't have been any notice, there wouldn't have been any pain.
No fear.
Anything else. The one thing that stood out to me from that piece is astounding. It's the equivalent of an entire Empire State Building made of lead sitting on top of the vessel. And we also heard in that piece that the CEO admitting that he broke the rules. And that certainly sent off some alarm bells when I saw that this morning. And I wanted to get a legal expert on to talk about this. And we are joined now by Anat Beck. She is an associate professor at Case Western Reserve University. Professor, thanks so much for joining us. We know that the passengers signed a waiver here acknowledging that the trip might result in injury or death. But when you hear the CEO and the founder of the company admit in an interview that he cut corners and he broke rules, does that make legal challenges perhaps more, the chance of them succeeding greater?
That's a great question. And what I would start with is, even without this video, they could try to say that the waiver should not be enforced. And that's usually governed by state law. But the fact that he admitted in the video that he's being negligent, the question would be, is it gross negligent? Did he perform something that we would call an intentional conduct? And if that's the case, if the court is going to feel that he was grossly negligent, it will be much easier for the relatives that will be suing based on this case. But I must say, again, for public policy, even when you sign a waiver, right, which they're called like debt waivers, it doesn't mean that the waiver is going to necessarily be enforced against you. Although businesses do this all the time, and it will depend on what exactly did they sign. Now, we have this blog where, contract law professors have been discussing what's going on with this case. Some say that there were provisions in this particular waiver with regards to conflict of laws where Bahama law should apply. And so that would be interesting to see if that's really the case. And whether this would be litigated in the United States or elsewhere, because usually such cases, state law governs these contract cases, and the law changes from state to state, where some states will be enforcing contractual provisions of this sort. Other, for public policy reasons, will not be that excited to do that. And so really, it depends on what did they sign, what did they know, and the more we hear about this, again, we need to know the facts, but it seems like there was a negligence here for sure, and that the question is, does that amount to gross negligence?
Yeah, and I would imagine that video clip would be front and center Exhibit A, because he brazenly said in the clip, experts say you don't use carbon fiber. Well, I did. And of course, we know how it's ended up. Professor, thank you so much for your information. I'm sure this is going to be a story that we continue to follow closely. And again, we thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.